is a must.
Because
Never again.
Because with all of that cold weather this morning, a lot of people had the frosty windshields, the frosty windows, spent the time scraping off the ice, and yet here we are in the beginning of November. This is common, where we typically have our first frost in the first weeks of November, and yet here we are with temperatures now holding below the freezing mark across many locations in northern New Jersey. There's a warm up today with a lot of sunshine. It just takes a while for that sun to get going. Let's look outside up to the northern counties here in New Jersey, across places like up in Passaic County, 24 degrees right now, 24 as well over toward Morris County, over in Wyckoff, 31. Have to head down toward the river, down toward the coast there in Hudson County to get a little bit of relief from that big cold. But even the further south you head, we start off very chilly this morning over toward Middlesex and Monmouth counties right now, holding in the 38 degree range over by Tinton Falls, and even in Long Branch, 47. A little further down we go over to sections of central and southern New Jersey. And down toward Atlantic counties, you had your first frost advisory last night. And here we are with Ocean City coming in at 39 degrees, 41 down toward Wildwood, and 42 in Cape May. So yes, it's a cold start across the state with the temperatures that will remain chilly all through the afternoon. At least we warm to 52 later today. So anticipating a very pleasant trend with today's temperature climbing to 52 degrees. It'll feel very nice out and about if you're standing in the sun, but due to the very dry air, obviously feels a whole lot cooler. Some weather headlines for you on this Friday morning. Plenty of sun throughout the weekend. Hey, it's a good day to grab one of those hot holiday lattes. Some of the coffee chains coming out with those new beverages, the new cups to go along with it. And with all of the cold weather around, you certainly could do you some good grabbing one of those to keep you warm. The growing season ends, obviously, now that we had all of the frost and freeze warnings and advisories across New Jersey. That's it for the outdoor plants. Now we have a dry stretch of weather to look forward to with actually no rain for the next 7 days, but it does get a little bit milder next week. This weekend, we're still in the freezer, especially each overnight, cooling back down to around freezing. But by Monday and Tuesday, you notice that we start off the afternoons in the 60s. That will be a very pleasant feel going into next week with highs, I think, could make it back to 70 degrees by the middle or latter part of next week, especially, Kara, in southern New Jersey, where we'll enjoy a nice trend of that southwesterly breeze and a calm, tranquil pattern. So if you're running to change out the closets and get all the winter wardrobe set, hold off because you might be back in shorts.
T-shirt. Oh my goodness.
You might want to save a t-shirt. It gets warm later on this week.
This is how people get sick. You know this, right? It's
well,
like
yes,
the roller coaster
but the flip-flop and the seesaw weather, I know. And then we're going to be back to cold the week after that. So
wait, and I have to tell you, this is you might know this already. So the nice part about this time of year and these temperatures is your porch and or your trunk now automatically makes a second refrigerator.
Oh, yes, for the cucina, of course.
For cooks, for anybody, like a cooler on the porch, or I stash food. When I prep Thanksgiving dinner, I cannot tell you the amount of food that sits in my trunk because if it's cold enough outside, it'll hold. So there's your cooking tip for the day.
Love it.
Meteorologist Mike Favetta, thank you very much. He will be back in just a few minutes. Now, for those of you who have followed New Jersey politics this week and who has not, Governor Phil Murphy has been declared the winner by the Associated Press, making him the first Democratic governor in more than 4 decades to win re-election in the Garden State. But the margin between the two candidates is less than 1%. Opponent Republican Jack Ciattarelli says not so fast.
Currently, Governor Murphy and I are separated by about 1% after 2.4 million ballots counted. There are still tens of thousands of vote by mail and provisional ballots yet to be counted. And so, the governor's victory speech last night was premature. No one should be declaring victory or conceding the election until every legal vote is counted.
Now, Tuesday's election caught a lot of people off guard, especially people who work in politics. While New Jersey is a blue state with 1 million more Democrats than Republicans, we saw a huge surge of GOP voters come to the polls. Republicans saw big gains in South Jersey, and Democratic turnout was not what was expected. Let's bring in now political reporter Laura Jones, as well as Senator Bucco, to discuss the election. And Senator Bucco was reelected on Tuesday, so congratulations to you, Senator.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Now, let's just start off. What's the big takeaway from this election?
Well, listen, I think people showed at the polls on Tuesday that they're sick of the nonsense. They don't support this governor's progressive agenda, and they want him to get to work and start doing what he was elected to do 4 years ago, and that is make the state run effectively and efficiently. I understand that we were hit with COVID, and that was a trying time for our state, and it still is. But that doesn't mean that people shouldn't be able to get access to unemployment. They shouldn't be prohibited from going to motor vehicles and getting a driver's license and their registration fixed. Our police officers' hands are being tied. Crime is going up. And I think people are just sick and tired of the nonsense. And they want their old New Jersey back. They want a more affordable state. They're tired of the borrowing and spending out of control at the State House, and they're looking for someone to stand up with common sense solutions and just get New Jersey back on track.
Senator, a lot of people, typically what draws people to the race is what is at the top of the ticket. What I'm looking at and what people are analyzing after the fact is a lot of the local elections had an impact. So, what do you think? What were the issues that drove people to vote, or perhaps drove people to stay home?
Well, I think on the Republican side, I think many people were energized. They were looking to get New Jersey back to the basics. Like I said, this far left agenda just isn't playing well, and people are angry about it. Jack was criticized by the governor during the debate about when he made the comment that some of these discussions should not be in our schools, but at our kitchen table. And, the governor said, you must have a pretty big table. I think that was a mistake on his part. Parents want to be able to have a say in what their children are being taught in schools. And if anything good came out of this last year or so, is that parents are getting involved in their children's educations. They're running for the school boards. Those used to be places where people just didn't pay attention to. And now people are paying attention to it because they want to make sure that their kids are getting a great education and that they're being taught the basics and what's important. I think people are also upset over the division that's being caused by many of these policies and programs that the governor is pushing. When you tell a police officer that when he witnesses a young adult with marijuana or alcohol, that they can't tell the parents, that doesn't play well. It doesn't play well at all. Parents want to know what their kids are up to. And they want to be a part of the process. And I think, we can't be a nanny state, and we can't be constantly pushing down these policies on parents and on the public. The bottom line is people want to be able to live, work, and raise their family here. And that's not the way they're feeling right now. People are leaving the state in droves. Our seniors can no longer afford to live here. And I think you're seeing people starting to push back against those progressive policies that have brought us here, that have been the hallmark of this governor's first 4 years. And people are pushing back.
Senator, and I just perhaps to piggyback off of that and maybe change gears a little bit, Senate President Stephen Sweeney lost in what was a stunning race. I mean, his opponent is a truck driver. I mean, how does that change the Senate, the legislature overall? What does that speak to in terms of the voting population? This basic unknown man, beat out one of the most politically powerful men in the state.
Well, you have to look at District 3, right, where Senator Sweeney is from. That is probably a center-right leaning district. And for years, Senator Sweeney fought back against Governor Murphy and was a check and balance against the governor. But lately, over the last year or so, the Senate president has come to an agreement with the governor, and started to support some of the progressive agenda that the governor was promoting. And I think the people of his district didn't like it. I think they liked the fact that he was that stopgap between some of these progressive policies and the governor, and getting those bills to the governor's desk. And when he started to move more to the left, I think people in his district just didn't like it.
All right. Senator Anthony Bucco, I thank you very much for your time this morning and your insight. And again, congratulations on your own reelection. We look forward to another term with you. Thank you again. You have yourself a great weekend.
Thank you. You too.
All right, Laura, now we have our next guest as we continue the conversation on election results and coverage of the election itself. Joining us now, Frank Cipolla, who spent more than 40 years in radio and TV news business. He is now the owner of guest placement and media coaching company, Contacts Media. Thank you, Frank, for being here this morning.
Ladies, thank you for having me on. I want to say something. I'm a big fan of the show, and I'm not just saying that. And some people go to their smartphone in the morning to get the weather, or they watch their local station in New York or Philadelphia or News 12. I wait for Mike Favetta to give me the forecast.
Is he not the best?
On top of it. And I like his recommendation today about the hot holiday lattes at Starbucks. I put a little vodka in mine. It gets my day going.
That's a good way. I don't necessarily disagree, Frank. All right, Frank, listen. So we're talking about this election. I mean, and it was, man, we were, and we still are kind of, holding on to our seats here. What happened?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, the Assemblyman a moment ago hit it right on the head. I think more than Murphy having a hard time winning was Sweeney getting knocked out by a truck driver who spent about $10,000. You don't go into those races if you're the Senate president and you're a mover and shaker and think you're going to lose. That to me is the big shocker. Number two, I think a story that's being totally ignored is that polling is no longer accurate. I mean, we can go back to 2016. We had Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump. I mean, I think the last time I checked the poll there, Hillary was supposed to win, 83% chance of winning, Trump 17%, and Trump won. We go back just a couple of years ago, the race in Florida, 6 of the 8 polls had the Democrat ahead of Ron DeSantis, and Ron DeSantis wins. And then we have polls here in New Jersey where Murphy was leading between 4 and 8% going into Election Day, and he ekes out a win. Now, I think the story, again, that's being ignored is polling is not as accurate as it used to be. Lauren and I remember a time when the phone was mounted on the wall in your home. It had a 25-foot cable. Am I right, Lauren?
Yeah, exactly.
Private phone calls in your closet or something. But
Frank, I hate to tell you, I remember those days too. Don't worry.
But you knew where the phone was. It was in a home in Bergen County or Old Bridge or Camden, wherever it might be. Nowadays, people are getting called on their cell phones. You don't know if they're telling you the truth anymore because there's so much divisiveness in politics. And number two, you don't really know where they are. They might have moved to Florida or North Carolina. They're getting a phone call. They say, yeah, I like Murphy, but they're not in a position to vote. So, I mean, I think the big story again this year is the polling was off. It was way off. And Murphy, he should thank his lucky stars that he eked this out.
Frank and Laura, I'm going to let you ask your question in a second, but I just had to Frank, thank you for bringing that up, because that to me is absolutely the big story. And like you said, the 2016 election, all of these recent elections, polling just has not been accurate, and maybe it's no longer how we gauge these things. I mean, we might have to come up with something else. Well,
let's look at this for a moment. If the polling industry is no longer accurate, then we don't know who to contribute to whose campaign. The media will have nothing to talk about going into Election Day because they live and die with the polls. And I think that's why it's been immune from a closer look. If I were a reporter in this day and age, I would do a deep dive in the way polling is done, because it clearly, since 2016, has not been accurate. And I think, Murphy went in there with a big smile and I think 4 to 8% point lead, and he's sweating it out to the very end. It's just not accurate anymore.
Yeah. And Frank, one of the things that I was thinking about, and it goes back to our days at News 12, when we had a news director who was very clear, who said, we are not don't cover the polls. That isn't our job to cover the polls, because that's a horse race. That's going to change. I don't know if you remember that, but I remember Jeff Marks saying, stay away from that. Now, this is going back to the 90s. But stay away from them. That's not what journalists do. Journalists go in and they report what's happening. They don't report on the horse race. That's so that I'm kind of thinking how the media has shifted and how a lot of people with that experience, they're no longer there because of, well, maybe we got too expensive or what have you. But there isn't a lot of there. So it's easy to report what comes on a poll because they write up a beautiful press release and you almost have to do, all you have to do as a reporter, just read what they say. And that isn't always accurate. It isn't always correct. And it hasn't had a reporter actually vet the information. Don't you?
Well, let me be a reporter and ask you, without those polls, what would the commentators talk about in the run up to the election? There would be nothing to talk about. It's a race. We think so-and-so is winning. We're not sure. They need the polls because that generates the discussion, the commentary, the conflict. But I think the polling, as you indicated, Laura, is not correct. What would they talk about?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if, the candidates were out and about and there were more, I mean, in this day and age of 24/7 news cycles, I just think there's so much a shift in how reporters cover and reporters actually being given that ability to follow the campaigns and to really, give updates on what is happening. That's disappeared.
We're forgetting as well that Jack Ciattarelli ran a perfect campaign. It was flawless. What he did was he talked about taxes. I saw an interview on one of the networks just before Election Day. In fact, it was Election Day morning. And he was again quoting Murphy by saying, hey, if taxes are your problem, this is not your state. He knew that was the Achilles heel, and he just hit Murphy over the head again and again and again with it. Let's take a look at Murphy for a moment. He's a very wealthy gentleman, a la John Corzine, who was a governor as well. I mean, you don't understand maybe that you have to pick one or two issues. I don't know what Murphy's campaign really was about. Yeah, he did a good job. He handled the pandemic. He handled what was going on. Maybe the economy not as well. Who knows? But there was no there, as you mentioned a moment ago. He had nothing to say going forward. Jack was saying, I'm going to do A, B, and C, and he stayed on message. It was a flawless campaign, and I congratulate him for running it. And you could see the results.
Frank, so going forward over the Associated Press has called this election for Murphy, but it's not formally determined yet. So how do you feel the media should handle this going forward?
Well, two things. First of all, I think Murphy will win, number one. Number two, I think Jack Ciattarelli is hanging his hat on this most recent trend of, hey, every legal vote, every vote has to be counted. Let's face it, the votes that have not been counted are from two of the biggest Democratic counties in the state, Essex and Union. The chances of Ciattarelli catching up with a bunch of Republican mail-in votes, I think, is slim and none. If he's a gentleman, and I believe him to be a gentleman, I've never met him, but from what I've seen, he will wait an appropriate amount of time and then concede. The good thing about Jack Ciattarelli going forward is he showed he's got some moxie, he's got some clout, he's got some coattails. And you can bet that the next U.S. Senate race in New Jersey will include Jack Ciattarelli.
Very good.
It's always about the next election, Frank, isn't it?
Right.
We're already on to 2022.
Laura, you say it all the time, and it never ends here in the Garden State. Frank Cipollo, thank you so much for joining us. And you have a new website that folks can find you at. Is that correct?
I do. People have asked me over the years, especially as I've gotten older, Frank, what did you do for a living? Or what do you do for a living? I've created a site that it's nonstop Frank. Just go on. It answers all your questions. It's Frank Cipollo, my name, .tv, not .com. Frank Cipollo, 1P, 2 L's, my name, .tv. It has everything you need. If you want to immerse yourself in Frank, if you want to swim in Frank, it's that website.
And who does not want to swim in Frank? Frank Cipollo.
I want the merch.
You want the merch?
I want the merch.
That's coming next. Buy my book on the website.
There you go. Frank Cipollo, Laura Jones, thank you both very much for joining us today for this invigorating conversation on what has already been a wild ride. You both have yourselves a great weekend. And folks, you can catch Laura Jones live later this morning at 10 a.m. on New Jersey Politics. Her guest, former Governor Don DeFrancesco and former New Jersey legislator John Wisniewski. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at NJ Morning Show. We'll keep you updated who's going to be on the show, and be sure to check us out. Click follow. We'll be right back.
The American Lung Association invites you to join us outside in 2021 for our Fight for Air Climb events. Now more than ever, we need you in the fight for clean air and healthy lungs. Let's go outside and climb, because every step counts. Visit us at lung.org.
Swing the hips. Oh boy, they weren't kidding. Whew.
You're looking for a gold crown.
Sure. So you say you're helping people through. How are you doing that?
It's blank.
Yeah, it's just black screen.
The American Lung Association invites you to join us outside in 2021 for our Fight for Air Climb events. Now more than ever, we need you in the fight for clean air and healthy lungs. Let's go outside and climb, because every step counts. Visit us at lung.org.
Swing the hips. Oh boy, they weren't kidding. Whew.
You're looking for a gold crown.
Sure. So you say you're helping people through. How are you doing that?
Welcome back to the New Jersey Morning Show. Let's bring in meteorologist Mike Favetta, get a check of your Jersey forecast.
Good morning to you both. Lisa Marie, nice to see you on this Friday morning.
Yeah, exactly. I should have listened to your forecast, because one of the follies of this morning was the fact that I had to warm up the car for the baby.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's about 15 minutes that I
It's the extra time that's required. And this is what makes the weather so
But
inconvenient.
We got her in. She has her hot beverage, so we're good now.
She's good. She's good. Yeah. I love how Frank
we're
is.
going to be having a couple other beverages later. I can't wait. Kara has no idea. And Mike, I don't think you do either. So I'm very excited.
No, I don't. I might have to get in the car and head over to the studio for these beverages.
You will once you
Make sure you warm up the car.
Really?
Yes, exactly. For your baby.
I will get on that. It's like a weatherman walking outside in a rainstorm without the umbrella. People look at you like, didn't you know? Didn't you know? Yeah, it's one of those things. Hey, we've got a really cold weekend ahead, but at least it warms up next week. So that's some good news, especially after so much cold weather the last few mornings. The frosty starts. It gets a little bit milder come Tuesday, Wednesday timeframe. So hang in a few more days and it looks a little bit better. We have so much mild weather on the way for next week. You might have to kind of look twice at the 7-day. We'll get to that part of the forecast in just a bit. Our forecast today is a slow warm up. We'll get back into the low 50s across most of New Jersey, save for Sussex County. With all of the sunshine throughout the afternoon helping us warm quickly, it'll feel very pleasant. Now the weekend sees a little bit of a warming trend as well. So day by day, town by town with your weekend forecast, notice that Morristown tomorrow gets up to 51 degrees, but climbs to 54 by Sunday. Newark gets to 55 on Sunday. And if you're headed down the shore this weekend, Atlantic City, 56 degrees. I think there'll be mostly sunny skies both days this weekend. That's great news if maybe you're headed out to the game. We've got a local football game taking place this weekend. The Oakland Raiders take on the LA Raiders. Oh my goodness, take on the Giants. My bad. It's been a while. And so Las Vegas Raiders. Oh boy. And we'll have to edit that out. It's going to be one of those really chilly afternoon games with temperatures that climb well into the mid 50s. You tell how much of a football fan I am. And so for that kind of segue that I was hoping would be a little bit cleaner and a little bit more pleasant. I now pass it to you because clearly I don't know very much at all.
You know what?
about
It's fine because as far as
the
I'm
big skin.
concerned, it's also still Giant Stadium. I don't care who paid for it.
Yes.
And I
And
would.
it will always be.
You said Oakland Raiders, and nothing clicked in my head
Nothing.
either. I was like,
Yes,
yeah,
yeah.
that's who they are. That's who they've
I still
always been.
call it Shea Stadium, you know?
Yeah,
That's
exactly. And Mike, it's just been that type of morning.
It
It's
really
been
has.
that time. Yes,
Tell
thank you. Right.
It's the new moon
Bring
and
on the
Scorpio
beverages.
thing. Yeah, it's we're on our way. We're on our way. Hey, listen. All right. So speaking of football, thank you, Mike, for your forecast. But we do have a great guest coming up.
Yeah, so last night kicked off week 9 of the NFL season, and things got off to a bad start locally, as per usual lately. The New York Jets suffered a brutal loss last night, falling to the Indianapolis Colts 45-30 and dropping their record to 2-6. Yeah, it wasn't even that close, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, it was garbage time points at the end. The New York Giants, also 2-6, faced off against the Las Vegas Raiders on Sunday. Joining us now to talk about the horrendous state of local football is Khalil Thomas of Jersey Sporting News. Good morning, Khalil.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. So the Jets came into this game riding high after really a brilliant win last Sunday against the Cincinnati Bengals, but it fell apart quickly. What happened?
I mean, simply put, it was the defense. I think the defense just kind of no-showed, and they got ran over. I think they gave up 270 yards, 280 yards rushing. It was just a bad game all around. I know they scored 30 points. In the NFL, you scored 30 points, you should win. But they gave up 45. It's a huge issue, but it's also a young team with a first-year coach. A general manager is still kind of finding his footing. So games like last night was almost expected this year. I think maybe not to the extent like last night, but it was expected. So the defense just completely was just shredded cheese last night completely.
Now, I know that the Jets have had quarterback issues. Their starter, Zach Wilson's out with a knee injury. His backup, Mike White, was knocked out of the game last night. Joe Flacco hasn't been active since being traded to the team, so his status is unknown. That leaves the Jets with Josh Johnson, a 35-year-old journeyman. Is Josh the guy for the foreseeable future?
Probably. Zach Wilson's supposed to come back in the next couple of weeks. We'll see what that happens. It's a PCL, it's a knee injury, so you don't want to rush that back if you don't have to. I mean, Josh Johnson played well last night. I think Lisa said it was garbage points, so really didn't really mean much. And he's adequate for the time being. Like I said, no one was expecting the Jets to really do anything this year anyway. So if Josh Johnson's going to be the guy for 2-3 weeks, you take what you can get. But Zach Wilson is still going to be the guy. I know Mike White had a big game last week, and people are like, "It's a controversy." There's no controversy. Zach Wilson is that guy. So it's Josh Johnson for the time being.
All right.
Okay.
Let's go Josh Johnson. Let's switch gears to the New York Giants. They play the Raiders on Sunday, a team that's dealing with a major off-the-field issue right now with a fatal DUI accident caused by their wide receiver, Henry Riggs III. How do you think that storyline will impact this game?
I think it's an impact. I think this year, Ruggs and David Carr kind of got a connection this year. So I think Carr loses a major receiving piece for him. I think the Raiders releasing Ruggs kind of said, okay, he's out of the picture. No more questions about him. Almost as a way to kind of get the focus back on the game. They're having a really good year in the first full year in Vegas with fans, obviously. It probably affected them a little bit, but I think it's going to be kind of next man up. They already lost their coach this year, so they have an interim head coach. So it's a whole lot going on in Las Vegas, but it seems like they're kind of holding it down to the best they could right now.
Yeah.
Okay, and the Giants now are coming off a short week. They've been dealing with their own set of distractions. They received a bunch of positive COVID-19 tests on Wednesday, most of which were proven to be false positives. Questions around whether or not head coach Joe Judge was lying about the team's headset malfunction during the games. Can they overcome this and capitalize on the Raiders' vulnerabilities here?
I mean, as a Giants fan, I would say, yeah, we can do that. But realistically, no. I think it's just... the team just seems really undisciplined and kind of uninspired almost. It seems like they're kind of letting the season run out and want to just get it over with. So I think a lot of these guys are kind of playing for a job next year. So I think there's going to be a lot of changes next year. Can they take advantage of what the Raiders are going through? I think you might see early on, especially with the Raider offense, maybe looking a little off. But the Giants, there's so many penalties against the Chiefs, and that game was winnable. There's a lot of winnable games this year.
There's been a few winnable games. If you look at the Giants this year, We should not be 2-6. We should have at least 3 wins.
Four. You can say 4 wins at this point. There's so many. The Washington game, the Atlanta game. There's so many games that they should have won. But like I said, a lot of sloppiness, a lot of undisciplined play, and it just seems like Joe Judge, who was this kind of army sergeant type head coach, is not really working because the players are almost kind of ignoring him at this point and kind of doing whatever they want to do.
Wow, that's tough words, Khalil. That's what a take that is.
And I have one more quick because I'm not great with like the numbers of sports. Are for the Jets or the Giants, are either of these seasons salvageable, or is this like a wash at this point?
I think like at maybe like a 3% chance of making the playoff. It's not gonna happen.
It's one of those seasons where like if then these 8 gazillion once in a lifetime things happen, they might have a postseason.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. And the Jets and the Giants collectively have the worst record of anybody in football since 2017. It has been awful.
Oh, so it's that rough.
It's that rough. And it's just been this carousel of coaches, quarterbacks, especially on the Jets side, and it hasn't been too much fun. Really quick before we wrap here, tell us a little bit about Jersey Sporting News.
Jersey Sporting News, great new website. It's been around, not new, but it's been around for a while. We're kind of venturing out. It started as a high school site. Now we're venturing out in pro, college, and also still high school. Great writing staff, and we cover all New Jersey. We cover high school, college, Jets, Giants, obviously. So we're going to get the word out there and check out jerseysportingnews.com and look up for your favorite local sports coverage.
This was so fun, Khalil. We hope to have you back on the show real soon.
Definitely. It was a great time. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, same here.
Thank you. All right, Lise, coming up next, we are talking, if you can believe it, we're talking holiday travel already with AAA and holiday stress with some help from Marcy Hopkins. And of course, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at NJ Morning Show. We'll let you know who's coming up next week on the show. Check us out, click follow.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
It's me, you, anyone that wants to be.
There is no typical firefighter.
Swing the hips. Oh boy, they weren't kidding. Whew.
You're looking for a gold crown?
Sure. So you say you're helping people through. How are you doing that?
Welcome back to the New Jersey Morning Show. Let's bring in meteorologist Mike Favetta, who apparently has a big fan in Frank Cipolla.
Clearly.
Who knew? I mean,
wow.
We love you, but that's a high level compliment, my friend.
That was very nice. Very
that
nice,
he only trusts Mike for his morning weather, none of the other local stations.
It's already on Instagram, Lisa Marie. You can catch up during the weather
forecast.
forecast.
Good. Okay, tag us. We'll reshare.
Yes.
And I agree. Everybody in the tri-state area should only listen to you.
It's the man right there.
Thank you. Well, we've got some fun to talk about because did you know that you can catch some fall foliage from space? You can actually see the foliage this morning from space. We'll show you the satellite in just a sec. I wanted to get you started, though, with that milder trend coming because we have some computer models that go way down the line, like into the 10, 14-day time frame. So here's New Jersey across the Northeast. You see there's the state and all that cold air, all of that shade of blue rolling across for the weekend. That's the really chilly weather that will stick around for today and tomorrow. Now we go a little further out in time and look how the colors change to that shade of orange and yellow. This is by Tuesday time frame. So come Tuesday, it actually turns much milder with this warm southwesterly wind, allowing for a very pleasant feeling with all of that nice, very dry and mild air. Then we go a little further out in time and it gets a little bit cooler yet again. So there's a nice trend of mild weather, but yeah, we get these cold shots that come in about 10 days from now with more cold weather. Here is a look of a different weather satellite. This is a polar orbiting satellite, and typically the weather satellites you see are about 22,000 miles in geostationary orbit, way high up in the atmosphere and in space. This is showing New Jersey right here. I'll draw it out for you. And it's actually a satellite that orbits much closer to the ground that allows for the sensor to pick up a very high resolution image of what's happening across the New Jersey forests. So you can almost see the colors here. You see the shades of red through portions of, say, Morris County and through Passaic County, and those lovely shades of red there in Pennsylvania. You go a little further south down to the Pine Barrens, and it's still green. So this is how a lot of these maps are made, and that's what you see with the current fall foliage on the other computer, showing the current conditions across New Jersey with the foliage in peak across most of northern Morris County, in through sections of southern Sussex County, and even back toward Hunterdon County. So pretty colors appearing across the state, but we still have about another week, I think, before we get there, because early November is where the shore points peak. The 7-day forecast allows for plenty of leaf peeping. If you want to see those colors, you've got temperatures in the 60s next week. Looks beautiful going into our Wednesday, Thursday time frame. Temperatures well above average. So, Lisa Marie, like I was telling Kara before, you don't need to switch out the closets just yet. With the winter wardrobe, you can actually still wear that, light clothing by the middle of next week. It'll feel quite mild.
That's very exciting news. Speaking of exciting news, News 12, which you do a lot of great work for, cleaned up at the Emmys on Saturday night. Were you part of that haul?
I was nominated. We did not win.
Okay.
So
it's a win to be nominated. That's how I look at it.
We just started this thing, so we're going to submit for next year, and I have a good feeling about it.
I do too. I do too. But congratulations to News 12. They beat me in my category.
Well, listen, you were nominated. You and Mike, again, you were nominated, and I think we all know to be nominated on your own independently as a freelancer or as a small production company. I mean, that is massive. It is massive.
Definitely.
So congratulations to you both. You are
Thank
some
you.
of the best in the business, and I am proud to be working with you.
And you too.
That was a long time ago. It's fine.
No,
we'll get another one.
But still, you were the first ever YouTube show to be nominated.
So
That's huge.
We'll do it all again, all together, for sure. We got the dream team. Mike, thank you very much.
You bet.
So can you believe we're already in Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Hanukkah season?
It doesn't even go that slowly. It's like Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah. It's like
I can't with the people the day after Halloween playing the Christmas music.
No, neither can I. I'm like, there's a holiday in between. Give it a minute.
Just like I couldn't take the people after Labor Day with the Halloween.
Yeah,
and
let it breathe.
I love Halloween, but yeah, you gotta let it play it out. Anyway, if you are planning on traveling over the next couple months, AAA says to make those plans now. Joining us now from AAA Mid-Atlantic is Jana Tidwell. Good morning, Jana.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. So what kinds of travel problems are you anticipating for the holidays?
AAA is advising travelers to plan ahead because there have been some bumps in the road since the pandemic. And since most people have gotten the vaccine, they're ready to travel. And especially at the holidays, they want to be with family and friends. So we're advising that everyone book now, make your plans, make your arrangements now. But the key to everything is going to be flexibility.
Jen, and I think for so many of us, when we think of AAA, we think of the roads and road tripping. And I think certainly in this area, in the greater New York Metro Tri-State area, we've certainly noticed the roads becoming significantly more busy already. That traffic that we were familiar with prior to the pandemic is back. Is that the kind of stuff that you guys are anticipating? Are you looking at folks road tripping for the holidays, or do you guys also handle, flights and things like that?
Of course, most travelers will go by car, and many people know AAA. They know our brand because of our roadside assistance. About more than 90% of travelers typically go by car for the holidays. But of course, AAA is also one of the world's largest travel agencies as well. So we do coordinate for our members and customers travel such as airfare, booking tour packages, hotel accommodations. So we are gearing up and we are ready for those travelers who are ready to go for the holiday season.
So last night, my husband flew in from Georgia.
Okay.
And the flight was on time. It landed early. When does that ever happen at Newark at night, right? But he was sitting on the runway for about 45 minutes because the plane couldn't pull up to the airport because of staff shortages. That's what the pilot said over the loudspeaker. How is that going to impact travel?
You know, it's one of those unintended consequences of the pandemic. We have seen staff shortages at airlines, hotels. Again, that's why travelers need to pack their patience and be ready to be flexible when they travel. So the key is to book early, book with a trusted travel advisor, so that if those things happen, those flight delays, flight cancellations, anything like that happens, you have an advocate, you have a resource who is able to help you make the changes you need to make to ultimately get to your destination.
Now, Jana, how, so you said, and I didn't even realize that AAA does this, that you guys also are essentially a travel agency. How can AAA help people that want to travel during the holidays, they want to pre-book, and should something go wrong, how does AAA then help?
The advantage to booking travel with a trusted travel advisor, such as a AAA travel advisor, gives you that advocate, gives you somebody on your side, in your corner, to help you battle through any of those hiccups that could happen during the travel process, especially now as many aspects of the travel industry are experiencing those staffing shortages. So if you travel, book your travel with a travel advisor, you have someone there, a resource to go to should there be any changes or challenges at the hotel, the property, the resort that you booked, any rental car issues, and of course, as we just discussed, any flight issues. We've seen the hundreds of flight cancellations. We know that we're going to be in a busy travel season in the next few weeks. Thanksgiving is less than 3 weeks away. So there are bound to be hiccups along the way. If you have a travel advisor in your corner that you booked your travel with, that's one phone call to make, and they will help you make the changes that you need to make, as opposed to you booking everything on your own and then being responsible for that great big headache of making those changes.
Exactly. You don't get that concierge service from one of those online booking sites. Thank you so much, Jana, and happy holidays. Oh, wow. So crazy to say that.
I can't believe we're saying that already, but yes, happy holidays.
Jana, thanks again. Well, sticking with kind of the that holiday theme, the holiday season can be so stressful for people. Some people struggle with alcohol or other addictions. Some people struggle with their weight. And a lot of people struggle with family members, difficult family members, being uncomfortable at family gatherings. Joining us now is recovery expert, author, and host of Wake Up with Marcy, Marcy Hopkins. Good morning, our friend. How are you?
Good morning. So great to be here.
Good to have you. So I think everyone's family has at least that one person that you just know is going to grate your nerves over your Thanksgiving dinner. How do you cope with those relatives?
Well, first of all, you don't want to anticipate the outcome of your time together. You know how we can create more anxiety when we worry about it? We want to not do that, because it's really important, because if you already have anxiety going into it, you could make things worse. And you want to have realistic expectations. I mean, if there are patterns with certain family members, don't expect it to be different. You're just going to have to roll with it and minimize your time with them. And also that, remember, the only thing you can control is your reaction, right?
Yeah,
that's it.
Exactly. What can we do if we get upset? So speaking of that, or triggered by a family member, how can we better control our reactions?
Well, first of all, breathe. We always hear about that, right? In any situation where we're really full of anxiety, breathe. And it's true, because that will bring down your heart rate, your blood pressure. So take 5 slow breaths. Don't engage. All right. Maybe excuse yourself, find a few minutes to calm down and count to 10. Believe it or not, just stopping and counting before you say something you're going to regret, it really, really helps. And if you need to count more, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, in my experiences, when someone is volatile, the best way to diffuse it is ignore. No contact, right, Marcy?
Exactly. You really don't want to engage. I mean, you can just say, yes, I hear you, and maybe change the subject or walk away.
Yeah. Marcy, you had kind of mentioned initially, kind of not building up the anxiety going into, a family dinner or a family gathering. What can people do prior to seeing someone who they know, can be upsetting? What kind of, I guess, how do you sort of prepare yourself to walk into that?
Well, you know what? It's really important to stay with your routine prior to going into a family situation. So if there's things that ground you, like exercise, keep up with it because it's really important. It helps you to stay in a positive mindset because really all we have is our routine. We keep up with it during the year. And then all of a sudden the holidays come up. We have anxiety because of all the expectations of us. We go into a family situation. We're expected to have a great time. And just lower those expectations and really just keep up with taking care of yourself. Self-care, so vital.
Yeah. So obviously there's a lot of hot button issues right now. Yes, politics is always number one, and that's not going away anytime soon, but there's also the vaccine, the mandates to get the vaccine, to not. How do you kind of thwart those that insist on bringing up these hot button issues at the dinner table?
Well, again, you can just say it's really not the time to discuss this and just end the conversation. Change the subject. Start your own conversations and keep it neutral because there's always going to be someone that brings something up that you don't need to be discussing at the family dinner, but just change the subject because again, you don't want to engage. And how you react is the only thing that you can control. And if you bring down the anxiety at the table, I think you're going to help other people to follow.
Yeah. Marcy, listen, tell us, where can we find you? Where do we find your show?
Wake Up with Marcy is every Saturday morning on WLNY TV, 1055 at 10 a.m. And you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, at Wake Up with Marcy. Instagram is official Wake Up with Marcy _ and always on YouTube. So, and on NJ on Air, of course.
That's it. That's it. Marcy, thank you so much for your time and your advice this morning. Have a great weekend and very good, peaceful holidays, hopefully.
You too. Breathe.
Thank you. That's it. Breathe. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. Marcy, thank you so much. All right, let's get one more check of our weather with meteorologist Mike Favetta.
Good morning.
Morning. There's a lot of Italian households, I hope, listen to that segment because things get a little hot and heavy on the conversation.
A little is an understatement.
And I laugh because I know so many people who have anxiety about going to family gatherings. I think I may perhaps have been very blessed that my family tends to generally agree, and even if we agree to disagree, I don't know that there's ever been a really hot-headed. I don't know. We seem to handle it well. We like each other.
Yeah, that's it. That's the key.
Well, when you've got Kara's Cucina in the kitchen
when you have
for Thanksgiving, what's not to love, Kara?
Everyone's got food in their mouths. That's why they're not fighting.
Exactly.
That might be your solution. Just have Kara for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, do what I can.
Might be the solution.
Yeah.
Speaking of food, if you're out dining this afternoon or this evening, it's going to be chilly. Possibly the indoor dining, likely the better bet, with temperatures cooling off into the 40s around 6 o'clock this evening. Remember, sun setting closer to 6:30. So plenty of cool weather around. You might want to find yourself underneath one of those outdoor heaters to stay warm, especially with all of the clear sky around. It will be a pleasant evening to walk around later on. Heading into the weekend, we've got the 7-day forecast showing that it's chilly through Sunday, but by Monday and Tuesday, we have a big warm-up on the way with temperatures that warm to 64 on Tuesday and likely the mid-60s and upper 60s in places by Wednesday. Portions of southern New Jersey could get to near 70 at some point by the middle of next week. That's how beautifully mild it will be, especially with all of that lovely warm afternoon sun. Then throughout the overnights, obviously the air is dry, so it chills back out, back into the 40s, but there's a mild trend next week, followed by another round of cold weather the week after. So, Kara, like you said before, it just kind of makes the weather, it's the weather that makes everybody sick with the seesaw effect and back and forth. But Lisa Marie, I looked a little further down in today's rundown, and I think you may have a solution for the chills or something to keep you warm.
Yeah, well, we have a special birthday happening tomorrow. Kara, happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. So what better way to celebrate Kara's birthday than with a nice bottle of limoncello?
Oh, look at that. My God, this is beautiful. Look at this. Thank you
That's
so much.
very
What is
nice.
this? Fabrizia Limoncello.
Yes. So Fabrizia Limoncello Company, they obviously make limoncello, and they also make limoncello infused desserts.
Wow.
We have some here. What
Oh,
do
look
we
at
have?
we have blondies and whoopie pies.
Yeah, they sent sugar cookies. They sent brownies. There's a limoncello pie in a jar that they sent. We're going to have a lot of fun.
I was like, wait, I have to open this right now. I have to at least smell it.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you to Fabrizia for sending all of this. This is amazing product, and we can't wait to dig in.
Yes.
And Mike, are you going to get in your car right now to join us?
I think I may have to, especially with all of the birthday celebrations, and that would keep you warm. A little shot of limoncello.
A little shot of
warm you right up.
limoncello, that'll fix you right up. That's a nice little digestivo.
Well, wait, what time is it in Italy right now?
I don't know,
It
there's 6
is
hours
now-
ahead, but there's no rules about drinking in Italy.
No, that's true. That's true.
This is aperitivo hour on a Friday afternoon.
Yes, it is. Where's my spritz?
Yeah,
Which is
exactly.
Fritz.
And look how well this matches our set.
I
our
know.
branding. I love it.
Yeah,
We should have limoncello on every show.
no argument here.
Yeah, exactly.
I second that.
Guys, thank you so much, Fabrizia Limoncello. Thank you guys for sending these goodies. We definitely appreciate it. And I think that's about it for us this
That
week.
wraps it up. What a show today.
Yes.
Lots going on here, as always, but even more so than usual.
It's always the case. Guys, we are live every Friday morning at 9 a.m. on NJ On Air, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. You can follow us, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at NJ Morning Show. We'll keep you up to date on who's going to be on the show. Check us out. Click follow. Thank you all. Have a fantastic weekend.